everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lex and I am the owner of PlantLifeLex.com, which is my online plant store that I run out of my one-bedroom apartment, and I also make all types of planty content on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Today I wanted to go through my October plant favorites before the month is over. I feel that October came and went really fast, much faster than I expected it to. To me, it doesn't even feel like fall is even happening. It feels like we're going straight into winter. The weather has been super weird here lately. It's been really warm some days, and then some other days it's just been really cold, and today is pouring rain, it's freezing outside, super windy. It doesn't even feel like October. So I picked out some of my favorite plants for the month of October. I don't have any plant products that are my favorite because I really didn't try anything new this month. This month has been kind of crazy for me as I've had a lot going on this month, and I've explained it in my last videos, and thank you guys so much for your kind words. It really means a lot to me. One more thing I wanted to address before I get started is that I'm so sorry that I don't have any makeup on. I actually just came back from an eye doctor appointment, and come to find out I do have some type of infection going on in this eye where my eye has been so itchy and irritated lately, and I've been dealing with this issue for years now, and no doctor has really given me an answer until today. So basically what I was told was that one of my eyelashes actually grows inverted, so instead of growing outward, it grows into my eye and it causes a bacterial infection. I'm going to be getting some medicine for that, so hopefully it helps, but I've never had an explanation, so I'm so happy that I decided to go to the eye doctor and bring it up again, because they just kept telling me that it might be allergies or it might be something else. But yes, that's why I don't have any makeup on. I just had to give my eyes a break this week because it's just been so irritated and so painful. Alright, so jumping right into it, I did pick out 6 plants this time, and each plant is different and they all have their own little story, so I'm going to go through each one now. So the first plant I have picked out is actually this Philodendron Ring of Fire. It looks like this. I got this plant actually as a little tiny seedling a few months ago, and it's just grown to be this beautiful plant, and the colors are so vibrant and pretty. I've just been loving these new leaves that it's put out. It's recently given me this leaf here with this beautiful variegation, and then this is the newest leaf here. And I do have this plant on my own custom moss pole that I made, and I actually don't use moss in my moss poles. I do just use the same potting mix that the plant is already in, and this potting mix is just my soil-free arid mix that I make myself, and I do sell it on our website in case you are interested in it. It's been growing really quickly and so beautiful that I just really appreciate this plant. I have neglected it a little bit, so it probably would have grown a little bit more if I kept on top of it, but for the most part it's a very easy care plant, and it's pretty affordable for a nicely variegated plant. The one thing that I really like about Ring of Fires is that the variegation is very different per plant. You can get a nice creamy yellow color, you can get orange, you can get green on green, and as the plant matures it takes on this really pretty shape. As you can see here, it's very narrow. But yes, this plant has just been so beautiful and has been bringing me so much joy this month, and I just really love it, and I love the colors. Another plant that's been a favorite of mine this month is actually this Monstera Adansonii Mint Variegated. You can see here it has these beautiful leaves that just came in, and I actually put this plant in pond and it's doing really well, as you can see, and it has just some leca on the bottom. This plant actually was an import plant that I got a few months ago, and when it arrived it was in really poor condition, to the point where I had to cut all the roots off. And cutting off the roots is not something new to me. I usually prefer to cut off all the roots of an import and reroot it in water so that I can make it a semi-hydro plant anyway, so I was totally okay with that. So I had this plant rooting in water for a few months, and it was taking a very long time, but it finally put out a nice root and had some secondary roots, so I figured, why don't I try to put it in pond and see how it goes? And within a week it just gave me so much more roots than it did from sitting in water for months. I am just blown away with how this plant is looking. This leaf here was the original leaf. It does have some yellow, but it's always had that yellow since I got it, and I don't think it's because it's dying, because it definitely would have died already. But yeah, it's had that yellow forever, and this was another original leaf here, and then it recently put out these 3 cute little leaves up here. And the variegation has been so pretty. I love that green on green with a little bit of white. I've been really happy with this plant. I'm kind of into the Monsteras again. I recently also got a Monstera obliqua, and I just really love those fenestrated leaves. I'm just so impressed with these little leaves here, and once it's a little bit more established, I will repot it and give it its own moss pole or plank or something like that so that I can get some really big fenestrated leaves. The next plant on my list is actually a seedling. This is him right here. It's so little and so cute. This is actually a seed from one of the seedling races on Instagram. If you don't know what the seedling race series is, it's a series on Instagram hosted by this person, and what it consists of is that you purchase a seed and it's a competition pretty much between everybody to see whose seed grows the biggest and the fastest in a certain amount of time. This one is actually, I believe, a crystallinum crossed with a Dr. Block something. I'm not familiar off the top of my head. I got this as a little tiny seed. It had no leaf on or anything, and it was actually such a fun experience growing a Anthurium from a seed because I've never done that before. This leaf just came out maybe a few days ago, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I grew a whole plant from a seed. I just didn't think I had it in me to grow a plant from a seed, so it's so cool growing them like that. And I have some other little seedlings as well that I'm growing, and they are also growing really fast. So it is really exciting growing a plant from a seed, especially because you get to just see it from start to finish. So this new leaf here has turned out to be so big that I'm actually so curious about the next one. And I just have this plant in a little dessert cup here. I got these from the dollar store. It comes in like a pack of 6 or something like that, and it's actually so established that it's able to be potted up in my potting mix too. Prior to the potting mix, I did just have it in moss and it grew pretty quickly, but ever since that I put it in the mix now, I feel like it's really taking off. I just make sure that I keep it nice and moist at all times since it is still a seedling, and I wanted to make sure that it still has that moisture, so I do make sure I keep up on the waterings on this plant. Very happy with this guy this month. So cute, and I can't wait for the next leaf. The next plant that I want to show you guys for my October favorites is actually a plant that I've kind of forgot about. This is my Philodendron Jungle Boogie, or it also goes by the Philodendron Narrow Escape. I got this plant as a little tiny seedling as well. It had like little tiny leaves and it didn't even have this shape as of yet. The leaf shape was very similar to this, but it was much smaller. I put it on a pole and it's just really grown so fast. It's such an easygoing plant and it looks gorgeous, and I'm just so happy with it and how it's been growing. Even with me neglecting it, it has put out so many new leaves and it's just been doing so well that it definitely deserved its own like spotlight. It recently put out this big leaf here and it has a leaf here. Sometimes their leaves do get stuck, as with most philodendrons they do that. So I actually had to free this leaf right before I recorded because it was stuck. And this is the back of the moss pole. You can see all the roots even sticking out of the top here that I need to adjust soon and get another pole. But you can see all of the roots just growing down the moss pole here, which is why I really enjoy having the moss pole with the clear backing, because you can always see how the plant is doing. So the Jungle Boogie is a very easygoing plant. It's very affordable and it's beautiful, and I feel like it definitely brings that jungle vibe to your home. It gets big and it's super bushy, so it's just a gorgeous plant all around, and the leaf shape is just so unique that it just brings a lot of attention to a certain area of the house. So the next plant I have is definitely a favorite, but it's also a pain in my butt type of plant. I've recently posted it on my Instagram and explained how much of a slow grower it is and how long it's taken me to get to this point. This is the aglioonema pictum tricolor. It has very beautiful variegation and almost looks like a camouflage print, and that's what kind of drew me to this plant when I initially saw it. This plant is actually an import and it has put me through hell. I am not even going to lie to you. It kind of grows on like a branch or like a long stem. I don't really know how to explain it. It looks like a branch to me, so that's just how I'm going to explain it. I'll throw up a picture up on the screen so that you can know what I'm talking about. It was a very long branch with like 2 little leaves at the top, so it was very weird, and I didn't expect that for an aglioonema. It was just really weird to me. It was an import. It died back, so all the leaves fell off, and then I was just left with this branch, which was weird because I didn't know what to do with it. So what I did was I ended up cutting the branch into just little tiny pieces like this big, and I just stuck them in water for months, and they actually started growing roots, which was crazy to me. I wish that I documented that process. I cut it into about 4 pieces, and now I actually have 4 of these plants. This is the only one that actually looks like this because it took a long time for it to get here, and it had several leaves die back before it put out a leaf that looked like this. So as you can see here, this leaf here it started to bring out that variegation, and then it continued, and then it just got better over time. However, when you get that first leaf of this plant, even the first 3 or 4 leaves, it actually might just look like this. So you can see there's a huge difference, but it's still the same plant, but you have to be very patient with this plant in order to see that variegation. So even though that these came from the same plant, the same stem, this one looks like this, and this one looks like this. But they are the same plant and they came from the same place. And mind you, I have 3 more of these that look exactly like this. So I'm waiting for these ones to start looking like this before I can list them for sale. I have all of these plants actually growing in leca, and I think that I'm going to transition them to pon instead. I feel like they're gonna do better in pon. The roots are doing great in leca. They seem to be okay. There's no rotting, nothing like that. So I think that I will keep these in semi-hydro because they seem like they're doing the best there. Other than that, I really do love this plant. The color is gorgeous. The variegation is beautiful. I'm really excited to see this plant get bigger and put out more beautiful variegated leaves and just see where this plant goes. The next plant I have on my list, I bet you guys are very excited for. It is my huge Anthurium luxurians. You can see it doesn't even fit in the frame because of how big it is. It's even bigger than my head. So this leaf right here, if you can see, this was the newest leaf and it's finally hardening. This was the last leaf and you can just see the difference. And then these little bottom leaves were the original leaves when I first got the plant here, and they're still hanging in there. I actually briefly talked about this plant in my last vlog. Make sure you go check out that video. This plant I actually got a few months ago, and it is from Ecuagenera. If you're not familiar with Ecuagenera, they are an import company from Ecuador. They will have little events where they actually come in person as a pop-up show where you can come and buy plants in person so that you don't have to actually import them and pay shipping fees. Usually the plants that are there are imports. They come in a plastic bag and their roots are wrapped in moss, but sometimes you can catch their events where they actually have non-import plants that are from their Florida greenhouse, because if you didn't know, Ecuagenera does have a USA website as well. They have a greenhouse in Florida and you can buy from that site as well. I went to one of the pop-ups a few months ago and I went on the last day because if you go on the last day, it's always going to be 20% off, and depending on the time of day that you go, they might actually give you more of a discount. So just keep that in mind next time you decide to go. I personally do not think that it's worth ever going on the first day. I've learned my lesson with that. They're always going to have plants regardless of what day it is, so don't think that you're missing out on something. This plant was potted up and it did come from the Florida greenhouse, and it was in a little 4-inch pot, and it was super established because the roots were actually growing at the bottom. They actually gave me a little bit more than a 20% discount on this plant, so I couldn't say no to it. Out of all the Ecuagenera plants that I've bought and spent money on, a lot of them really just did not make it because they were imports. But this plant in particular has been the best purchase that I've ever had from Ecuagenera, and I'm so glad that I bought it. The price for a pure Anthurium luxurians definitely fluctuates, and I have seen it at highest $500 to lowest around $175 to $200. I'm not sure now what the prices are, as obviously I'm not in the market for luxurians, but it's definitely kind of crazy how expensive this plant was at some point. As for plant care with this plant, it's so easy. It's probably the easiest Anthurium that I've ever owned. I don't really get any crispiness or any browning on it. I keep it in the milk bowl at high humidity and it really just thrives, and it just is beautiful. And I love that it's an Anthurium even though it doesn't have that velvety texture on it like most other Anthuriums do. They've also come out with several crossbreeds of this plant too, so in case you are looking for a luxurians and maybe you can't afford the full luxurians, I would definitely recommend maybe getting the Anthurium luxurians crossed with the radicans. It's very similar in look and it gives that same vibe, and honestly you can probably find it for like 25 bucks. So this plant is definitely a favorite in my collection, not even just for October but overall. This is a very high favorite on my list and I absolutely love this plant. I'm just so happy that I got it. So that is all I really have for my October plant favorites. Like I said earlier in the video, I don't have any plant product favorites because I haven't really tried anything new. So if you have anything that you recommend, like fertilizers or anything like that, let me know down in the comments and I definitely will try it. If you're curious about my favorite plant products, definitely check out my September favorites because I listed a lot of products that I use on a daily basis in that video, so you can go ahead and check it out. One more thing I want to note before I go is that in the next 2 weeks I will have a very large restock happening on our website. There will be tons of new houseplants, plant pots, and some other fun stuff on our site, so just mark your calendars for the next 2 weeks and check it out. The direct link to my website is in the description below. We do ship nationwide with the exception of Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below what your favorite plant was for the entire month of October. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!